Today on The Story, we travel to the deep American South, where Washington correspondent George Grylls takes us on a tour of the village in which only white people are allowed to live. It's the sinister brainchild of a far-right YouTuber, Eric Orwoll, who, as well as self-proclaimed racist commentator Nick Fuentes, is gaining quite the following in the US.
Halfway between Memphis and Little Rock, to reach Eric Orwoll's experiment in race-based living, you must drive for several hours through deeply conservative Arkansas. Past steak restaurants where men wear khaki, even when they're not hunting. Past diners where the waffles come with thick dollops of blueberry jelly. Past Pentecostal and Baptist churches, where the car parks are filled with pickup trucks for Sunday service. Have you been washed in blood? Asks one billboard. When it feels like you cannot venture any deeper into the Bible Belt, you turn off down a 2-mile dirt track that leads to Return to the Land. The all-white community in the Ozark Mountains is home to 40 white Americans, where you will find Orwell, a classical musician from Los Angeles with a fondness for quoting Plato, who is becoming increasingly famous in far-right circles.
For countless generations, my ancestors have lived in homogeneous communities of people of European descent. And if you radically transform that in a generation, there's no reason to assume that won't result in large changes to your way of life. And I'm not willing to just assume it's all going to work out just fine on the basis of nothing. Because when I look at the data, it seems like multiracial societies actually have less harmony. If people want to voluntarily segregate, they should be allowed.
Membership is limited to heterosexual Christians and pagans of European descent. Black people, gays, and Jews are not allowed to live here.
My ancestors came here thinking it would be a white European country. The country was changed, not through a democratic mandate, but in the case of the Civil War, the fact that slave owners, who were a small minority of white Americans, they brought people over and now created this problem for the others, where there were people here who didn't exactly fit the original concept of what the nation was going to be. So the American people have never wanted mass immigration from the third world. It has just happened. Or, a lot of the immigration has been illegal. People have come here illegally by the millions, and then naturalized and had kids here, and kids have birthright citizenship.
But black Americans arrived at the same time as white Americans.
Yeah, that's true. Right.
So
what about that?
I guess if you're saying that the country was founded as a white country for white people.
Yeah, it was.
But that black people came at the same time. And then you say that basically it's all gone bad because it's opened up to immigration. Well,
I'm not saying it's all gone bad because of that. I'm saying it's sort of wrong from just a social contract perspective. When people come here to a country thinking it will be one thing, and in a non-democratic way, it becomes something else.
Situated at the top of a hill above a creek prone to flash flooding, the village is still a work in progress, a collection of rudimentary houses in varying stages of completion.
So talk me through what's down here.
So?
This was all forest and you've cleared it recently, or this was...
It wasn't forested, it was recently logged. It was in very rough shape, so it's taken tens of thousands of dollars, just like what you see here, to get this cleared. And people do have intentions of developing here.
For the settlers, return to the land is about asserting an individual's rights over his property. For anti-racism campaigners, the village amounts to segregation.
So the community is for whites only, obviously. In terms of other elements of kind of mixing between races, where do you stand, interracial marriages?
I think they're bad for people in general. And I think the statistics bear that out. More of those relationships end in divorce, more result in spousal abuse, more mothers of mixed-race children experience postpartum depression. These statistics are all available. So when I look at it, it seems like it is less sustainable than same-race couples. If someone wants to live in a mixed-race community, they can live anywhere else in the country, and I have no interest in trying to stop them.
Sites in Tennessee, Missouri, and West Virginia have been earmarked for settlements, and he even plans to expand into the suburbs of major American cities. Each return to the land resident must apply to join Orwell's private association, whereupon they are awarded a share of his company, which translates into a 3-acre plot. We start our tour on Orwell's parcel of land, where roosters scratch through the dry leaves for grubs. With his blonde hair and piercing cerulean eyes, it is not clear whether he has accentuated his Nordic features by neatly gelling his hair, or he just happens to look that way.
I feel like I'm the only one left on YouTube. I'm surprised, actually, I'm still on YouTube. I'm sure that'll be taken away in the near future. But yeah, like all my friends who were on YouTube are now banned.
He has never been to Europe, apart from a brief stopover in Amsterdam, but has traced his ancestry to the Aarvoll family from Norway. Growing up in California, Orwell says he had 2 black friends, as well as acquaintances from Orange County's Philippine community, relationships that he cannot quite bring himself to condemn.
I mean, you said that you had friends who were of different races growing up. So you had Filipinos, you had
Mexican
friends.
Sure.
Black friends.
There weren't a lot of black people in my immediate neighborhood.
Yeah.
I did have a couple black friends, but there were only so many black people in the town.
Right. Would you be happy for your kids to have friends like you did growing up? Do you think it harmed you? It was a problem?
Well, I think actually I did internalize a lot of hard feelings about my own racial identity from growing up that way. Like people I was friendly with, I would consider friends, they would make fun of me and degrade my identity, sometimes just because of my appearance or hair color. It's like, thinking back on it,
what did they say?
I was bullied. Well, for instance, when in history class we were learning about Chinese inventions and all the things these other civilizations have done, they got the impression that like white Western people have done nothing, and they were essentially like teasing me about it as if my people had done nothing.
After leaving high school, Orwell moved to upstate New York to attend a music college, and following graduation was hired to play the French horn in the Shen Yun Orchestra, a Chinese traveling troupe associated with Falun Gong, a New York-based cult whose messianic leader, Li Hongzhi, opposes interracial relationships and thinks extraterrestrials walk the earth. Orwell recently did a 2-hour YouTube video with Nick Fuentes, 27, perhaps the most recognizable white nationalist in America.
I mean, it couldn't be clearer, really. You're basically saying, yeah, I'm a racist, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
You're fine with saying you're a racist?
Totally. I think everybody's racist.
A fellow Christian and anti-Semitic Holocaust denier who has praised Hitler, Fuentes, who subscribes to the Great Replacement theory, stated on his podcast in February that white people need to preserve their culture and should organize to live among other white people because the US has become an alien nation.
Nick Fuentes, thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I wanted to meet you.
In October, Fuentes controversially appeared on the podcast of the former Fox News host Tucker Carlson.
The interview, which lasted over 2 hours, was posted late last month and has been seen over 20 million times.
Where he expressed admiration for Joseph Stalin and claimed that an organized Jewry ran America. The two men criticized Israel-supporting conservatives.
The conservative commentator Tucker Carlson interviewing Nick Fuentes, the 27-year-old hard-right influencer with millions of followers known as Groypers. Fuentes is known for his open racism,
White people have a special heritage here as Americans.
his misogyny, like when he wrote "Your Body, My Choice" after the 2024 election.
The whole political system is just based around women never being accountable for any of their choices.
And his overt anti-Semitism, ranging from Holocaust denial to his belief in a global Jewish conspiracy.
Big challenge to that is organized Jewry in America. I don't think
The interview with Carlson drew quick, sharp condemnation from many in the conservative movement. Ben Shapiro, editor of the conservative Daily Wire, wrote, "No to the Groypers, no to the cowards like Tucker Carlson who normalize their trash."
Yet Orwell's most popular video on YouTube remains a rambling 20-minute history of Falun Gong, describing how he lost faith in his Shufu, or Master Li, whom he describes as a brilliant extemporaneous speaker. Around this period in Orwell's life, before his conversion to Christianity, he began streaming sex videos with his ex-wife Caitlin Smith on a porn website called Chatterbait. It was something I was very ashamed of. I was a nihilist at the time. I was not Christian, didn't really believe in traditional values or any values at all, he says, explaining his interest in the forthright debating style of the new atheists, Richard Dawkins, Daniel Dennett, Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens, the four horsemen who were popular with young men on YouTube about a decade ago. Was it Orwell's idea to start streaming porn for paid subscribers? Or Smith's? I don't want to get into exactly how it all started, he says. Orwell and Smith have 4 children together, ranging in age from 2 to 8. Although they are now divorced, she has followed her ex-husband to rural Arkansas and lives at Return to the Land. She has now married a fellow white nationalist with whom she is expecting another child. Orwell also has a new partner and hopes to have more children. And you're personally, you have a partner or what's your...
Yeah, I'm married.
And your ex-wife also lives...
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. And she's remarried as well.
Right. So your kids are close at hand so you can see them whenever...
Right.
Yes. And how many kids...
Their legal residence is my home nearby.
Right. And how many kids have you got?
4.
What's the age range?
2 to 8. 2, 4, 6, and 8.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty full-on job looking after them.
Oh, yeah.
And so your kids, do they go to school locally or what's their...
They're all homeschooled.
Is that the approach most people take here?
Yes, all of them. All the kids are homeschooled.
Do you do any of the teaching? And what
I try to
subjects?
help. Yeah. I would say
Are you
that-
Mr. Orwell in Orwell? Sorry, in the classes, or what's your...
No.
Just Eric.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really led the homeschool group of all the kids, so I've not done that. But with my own kids, I try to help.
Right. What's the curriculum that you build for them, and how does it differ from a public school?
Well, really, they're all pretty young, so it's essentially the same. It's mostly phonics and basic math. And, I will try to fill in with geography and history to some extent, but they're really too young to do any serious study in most of those subjects. We also give them a lot of books to read.
One of the stated aims of Return to Land is to facilitate media activities to promote our movement. But that commitment appears to be waning. Orwell says they are on edge after a French journalist tried to film inside one of the homes, and he has warned the settlers of our presence. In another incident involving a New York Times reporter, Orwell hastily hid a copy of Mein Kampf just as it was about to be photographed. At one point on our walk, Peter Casere, the co-founder of Return to the Land, once arrested in Ecuador for stabbing a miner, drives past and waves, but does not stop.
Also, of course, we disagree with many of the messages that they will receive in public school.
Can you point to some examples?
Well, I mean, they do teach things about LGBT lifestyles, and we don't believe those are healthy or natural. So I don't want my kids being taught that those things are healthy or natural, which is what they will be taught in public school.
As we wander around the property, it is hard to fathom how 40 people can live here. Things are eerily quiet. The only reason Orwell has agreed to meet me, he says, is that he has just 3 years to sell his vision. He believes a Democrat will enter the White House in 2028, at which point Washington will try to close down his community, and he will no longer be able to convert people to segregationism. It's a necessary evil, he says of his engagement with the press.
Demographically, it's inevitable. Because older white people who vote Republican are passing away, and the people who are turning of age are less white, and non-white people vote disproportionately Democrat. The United States was founded as a country for white people. That was very explicit from the beginning. The Naturalization Act of 1790 said a person could be a citizen here if they were a free white person of good character. So the founders were white nationalists.
Orwell does not live at Return to the Land because his house is unbuilt. He says he has a place nearby, but he does have an office on site. Not dissimilar to a shipping container, the exterior of his prefabricated hut looks like the office of a construction site manager. From the outside, you might expect to find fluorescent jackets hung up on the back of the door. Inside, it has been styled as a library, with jarringly old-fashioned furniture. On an antique desk are Orwell's cameras, lights, and microphone for YouTube streaming. He has positioned bookshelves with copies of Plato, Aristotle, and Deleuze and Guattari to serve as his backdrop. There is also a replica of a Trojan helmet and the board game Risk. Some anomalies stand out, including the works of Oscar Wilde. Yeah, I really like Oscar Wilde actually, Orwell says. I understand he wasn't, like, trad, but he is very witty. I ask if he knows that Wilde was gay. Yes. That he was in prison for being gay? Yes. When I pick up a copy of a book arguing the pyramids of Giza were not built by the ancient Egyptians, Orwell launches into a confusing lecture on Atlantis, which, he believes, was inhabited tens of thousands of years ago by a civilization of blue-eyed superhumans.
We know that some aspects of the Atlantis story are certainly true, that there have been many lost island cultures. I'd like to examine the possibility of a comparatively advanced island culture somewhere west of the Pillars of Hercules.
If the Atlanteans were there on the Azores, they came from somewhere, he says. We can trace which actual population made it. In my opinion, I've done that. I've found the genetic cluster.
Over 40,000 years ago, Homo sapiens began interbreeding with the Neanderthal. Immediately following this admixture, the cultural and technological achievement worldwide increased greatly. There seems to have been some significant advantage gained by at least a portion of the new biracial population.
They would have had darker skin than us, darker hair, darker skin tone, probably blue eyes.
The decline of both brain size and Neanderthal admixture in the general population, which occurred since the time of the Cro-Magnon man.
In one of his YouTube videos on Atlantis, Orwell rambles about a ruling elite from the Near East, describing this mysterious group in terms most people would recognize as anti-Semitic.
There's been quite a bit of talk recently online about the idea that a certain group of people holds power at the global level, controlling international financial institutions, major media outlets, universities.
Did he read this mainly in books? A lot of this ancient history stuff I've studied online, he says. I read a lot of the papers, scientific papers.
Nepotistic behavior of this kind of parasitical ruling elite, and these people are not a force for good in the world. That's the idea that people are talking about.
I venture he is referring to Jews when he talks about this parasitical layer of society.
I noticed there was one video that you did, and it kind of talks about this kind of ancient community, this parasitical, I think you call them, elite, who kind of control the media, control the banks, and all the rest of it.
That was one of the Atlantis videos, I think.
Yeah, and that sounded to me like you were talking about Jews.
So my view is that it's not just the Jews. I actually do believe there's a more ancient ruling elite that has held power essentially globally from the early Neolithic. And I think that actually Judaism was created by that group. And I think they've done a lot of social engineering. That's just my personal theory. And it's not like all Jewish people control the media. And it's not like it's only Jews. But I do think a very well-established set of families and bloodlines have held power for a long time. And they do control things parasitically, where they, through interest, through usury, and through inflation, controlling the money supply, extract value out of the majority of working people.
Right, so they predate the Jews, but they are now Jews.
No, they predate the Jews, and many Jews are part of their network, but not all.
Right.
For someone apparently offended at being compared to a Nazi, Orwell seems unabashed about continuing with these theories.
That would be quite controversial. I mean, I think you know it's quite controversial.
Well, they are vastly overrepresented.
Had you friends who are Jewish? Do you have friends?
Yeah, I had friends. I've had many friends that were Jewish.
Do you think they'd be offended if they heard that?
That what? They're disproportionately influential in elite circles? I think they brag about that very often. I don't think that's controversial at all. That's, to me, just a statement of fact.
The sensitivity is over the history, and that, you know, some of these ideas have been used by people to kill millions of Jews. I mean, that was...
Right.
He begins defending Hitler's attempts to get Jewish people out of power in Germany.
And you said when you were being taught about World War II, you felt a little bit, I don't know, victimized almost, because it was presented.
Well, I felt like I was identified or lumped in with victimizers. You know,
really?
Oh yeah, I mean, I look like the guy from the SS posters. Like when they
Did
said...
people comment on that in school?
Oh yeah, of course kids would. Of course, yes.
What would they say? They would literally say, you look like a Nazi.
I mean, things to that effect. I don't remember verbatim anything that was said, but I do remember teasing or joking taking place, which at the time I didn't take huge offense to. But I did realize that, when it came to a lot of these historical narratives, people who looked like me, people who were part of my demographic group, white men, we were characterized as essentially villains. And I don't think that's actually true. I think that's a skewed telling of history.
So who were the villains in World War II?
Actually, I think by attacking Germany, and we declared war on them, not vice versa. The Brits declared war first. And if we hadn't, then the Holocaust as we know it probably would not have occurred. Did Hitler intend to send German Jews elsewhere and help them set up a state somewhere else? Yeah. I mean, there are pictures of Zionists in Israel flying Nazi flags, and they actually were on Hitler's side because they thought they would get their own state out of the arrangement. So I think what actually happened with the Holocaust was largely a result of the fact that they were waging a multi-front war. They didn't have many resources. They felt under duress and threat. And it was only when they were so pressured that they ended up treating their captive population very cruelly. So I think the plan was to help them set up a nation state for themselves. These were nationalist groups. So they didn't think that Jews in Germany should be running Germany. They thought Germans should be running Germany.
And that's a legitimate thing to think?
Well, Jews in Israel think that Jews should be running Israel. So it's sort of the same ideology, isn't it?
But is that a legitimate thing to think?
That the people of a nation should run their nation?
No, specifically in that context, that Germans who thought that Jews should not be able to hold positions of power in Germany.
The universal principle that if you have a nationalist society, that the nation or members of that nationality should run the society, that is what Israel is based on.
I'm going to go one more time on that specific example. Germans who thought that Jewish people should be removed.
Well, why would they be any different than the rest of these examples? What's so different about the Germans?
In Ravenden, the nearest town, the white owners of the local petrol station say they are aware of Orwell's community, but they have not been told he is building a whites-only settlement. When the concept is explained to them, they fear they are being accused of something. "I'm not racist," says Jason, 48. "My grandbabies are black." Jason's mixed-race grandchildren often come and stay in Ravenden. Is he comfortable with white nationalists living in such close proximity? "As long as they leave me alone, I'll leave them alone," he says. It is a singularly American response. It's their land, he says. They bought it.
That was Washington correspondent George Grylls, and you can read his piece, The Sinister US Village for White Straight Christians Only, in today's Times magazine. That is it from us. The producer and sound designer today was Dave Creasey, executive producer was Kate Ford, and theme composition was by Mauro Setto. I'll be back tomorrow with a fascinating look inside the control room of Britain's hacking crisis. Join us then.